Hello, this is Pinkietessa's A to Z of London. It's J for Jewel Tower. Stuck for choices was I for J. Just when I thought it was going horribly wrong, I found the J Tower. I'll tell you this for nothing. It's got naught to do with the Tower of London. It's a rather little known affair, hidden in the shadow of Westminster, across the street of Abingdon. It was literally hidden from view until fairly recently by private domestic dwellings. Fairly recently turns out to be post-World War II, possibly in the 50s or the 60s, when extensive works on Abingdon Street took place. But that is recent in the tower's life, as it's over 700 years old. Built as it was in 1365, completed in 1366. Diamonds are forever, and so apparently is the Jewel Tower. It was built as part of the medieval Palace of Westminster and is one of two surviving sections of this complex. The other and oldest existing is Westminster Hall and part of the present-day Palace of Westminster. The hall was erected in 1097, at which time it was the largest hall in Europe. Blimey. The Jewel Tower was commissioned by Edward the 111th, or 3rd even, in 1365 to house the King's wardrobe and a treasury of personal royal valuables and rich robes. This is what the King's privy wardrobe refers to, the monarch's private stuff, not for official use. The land used for the Jewel Tower was appropriated or just plain nicked from the Westminster Abbey, today a long stone's throw away. It seems in 1365 the Abbey's lands bordered the edge of the Privy Garden, this again being the monarch's private garden close to his private quarters, at the southwest corner of the palace. As one can imagine, the monks were not best pleased by this encroachment. When William Ushibourne, the king's keeper of the Privy Palace, choked to death on a pike's bone, a fish caught in the moat of the tower, the irony must have provoked utter glee. Not necessarily a Christian response, but thus proving prayers do work, especially with a collective approach. So why was this extra storage space required for the King's privy wardrobe? Because the main privy store at the Tower of London was full to the brim with military supplies and equipment. And why was it full of rubbish? Because they were up to their ears in yet another French war. 100 blinking years of it, for goodness sake, and they'd only just got going. The Jewel Tower is a survivor. It's forever, and it stood its ground as the devastating fire of 1834 ravaged the rest of the Palace of W. I say that, but it was more location than determination, being at the far southern end of the palace complex, built into the defensive wall, but detached from the main building. Remember, I'm not talking of the present-day Palace of Westminster. The majority of what you see now is the rebuild after 1834, in a very Victorian Gothic manner. Back to the tower. It's a small, simple, 3-story building constructed of stone, featuring a 14th century ribbed vaulted ceiling, virtually unaltered. And you can't say that about many 700-year-olds. Can you, Brucey, my love? There still remains evidence of the moat adjacent to the tower, which provided added protection for the precious contents. The moat was only of 2 sides because the building had been built into an L-shaped design, thus not to interfere with the garden of Edward III. Happy to nick other people's gardens, but careful not to mess with his own hey-ho. The ground floor, where the 14th century vaulted ceiling is found, is adorned with grotesque heads and bosses. Vaulting is the structure used of brick or stone to form a ceiling or roof over a space. There also resides a marble table dating from the 13th century, but God only knows where. Henry Yeovil designed the tower, the most famous architect of the day. It is constructed largely of Kentish rag stone and boasted the moat and medieval quay for protection against fire, which we know worked, and against thieves. Yea, don't forget the thieves. They just adore jewels, but not getting wet. Jewel towers are forever. 98 boatloads of stones were shipped from Maidstone to Westminster for its construction. The River Thames was a mere hop, skip and a jump away, and at this time, from an illustration, appears to have dog-legged round this southerly portion, unlike today. In 1512, the palace went up in flames, so 1834 wasn't the first occasion, and the monarch, who at that time was Henry VIII, skid-daddled. The bulk of his jewels were transferred elsewhere, but the tower remained a wardrobe for the king's clothes. The Palace of W had functioned as the primary London residence of the king. From now on, it served solely as the home of Parliament, but not necessarily as we recognise it today. Jewel towers are forever. From 1621 to 1864, the tower was used as a government office and store for the records of the House of Lords, so their records were saved from the fire of 1834. So the House of Lords records are forever. For 69 years, between 1869 to 1938, the Jewel Tower served as a weights and measures office, which is why there is a display of items relating to this activity. Other super-duper relics knocking about are items of pottery and whatnots dug up from the moat, with tales to tell, no doubt, but no time now. Jewel towers are forever! The Jewel Tower now does its bit for the tourist trade within the bosom of English heritage. They champion historic places, advise government and others to ensure heritage is protected for all generations now and those to come. Amen. And that has been my J for Jewel Tower, which is forever.
I don't need love.